Hey guys, it's Mike Barletta. We got a ton to get into, but before we do get into that, make sure to go follow my Twitter and Facebook where you'll find a lot more updates on these storms coming across the Atlantic Ocean that could possibly impact a few areas of the United States. And make sure to like and subscribe. I put a lot of effort into these videos. But enough of that. We got to get right into it. A ton to talk about. Three areas of interest: newly designated Tropical Depression 14, newly designated Tropical Depression 13, and an African wave coming off of Africa. We're not really going to talk too much about that because there's so much else to get into, a lot more importance. First, we're going to start it off with newly designated Tropical Depression 13, currently located about 80 west, 15 north, moving to the west northwest ish. Forecasted to become a tropical storm tomorrow and make its way to the eventually turning to the northwest, making landfall over the Yucatan Peninsula before going into the Gulf of Mexico. That's where some questions come into play. Currently a 35-mile-an-hour tropical depression, still moving pretty fast. This was the problem with this system beforehand, why it took so long to really start to develop, because it's moving so fast. Still moving a little fast west at 18 miles an hour, but not too bad. So yeah, that's the forecast for Tropical Depression 14, excuse me, I believe I said 13 before, just got designated this morning. This is the area, if you watched my last video, where I said to watch for some development once it gets south of Cuba, closer to the Yucatan Peninsula, where I believe there was a little less shear, warmer waters, that we could get some development. And that looks like exactly what's happening. Some tropical storm watches also posted for portions of Central America. So now taking a look at the current IR satellite, very easily visible mid-level rotation right in there, actually trying to develop, I guess you could call it a little bit of an eye. A lot of convection, a lot of bubbling convection, which means that it might take a little bit longer to really develop, as it has to consolidate a lot of that energy. I know an airplane recon mission is currently in there right now investigating exactly what's going on. Unfortunately, this video will be done before that, but regardless, looking like a pretty good tropical cyclone. Might need to wait until around 82 to 84 west to really start to strengthen, but regardless, a pretty good look on the satellite imagery. Now we're taking a look at the dynamic model forecast a little bit further than the official forecast. Official forecast is this black line going right over the Yucatan Peninsula, and a lot of the dynamical models miss the Yucatan Peninsula just to the east, which may allow for some further strengthening if there's not as much land interaction. But overall, a pretty good forecast, a pretty consolidated forecast from these models, showing a track into the Gulf of Mexico, and then some questions once we get into there. We could see a landfall anywhere from Texas to, in my opinion, New Orleans. Somewhere within there, I think, is a pretty good shot to get some type of impact from a tropical cyclone. Intensity still up in the air, but definitely if you're in the Gulf Coast, you're going to have to watch this one. And we're going to have to watch the other one. If you guys are interested in the other storm that's currently developing that may hit Florida, that'll be in this video a little bit later if you guys want to skip ahead. But right now, I'm starting off with this tropical depression. So getting right into the intensity forecast. Currently, most of the models agree on the exact intensity, keeping this anywhere from a weak to moderate tropical storm. Some of the models up here get it, a few of them get it to Category 1, which definitely a possibility. I would not rule that out, especially late August in the Gulf of Mexico. I would not rule out at all a potential hurricane, but right now it doesn't look like that is going to be the case. Most of the models keep it a weak to moderate tropical storm. We'll definitely have to see exactly what happens. Currently, my thoughts is that this is going to be a moderate to strong tropical storm, as models sometimes usually underdo the intensity, but regardless, this is exactly what they show. So we're going to take a look at the GFS model now. This is a three-run trend. Over the past 3 runs, you could see 3 runs ago there was nothing. 2 runs ago, we had a little something, and now the model's really trying to develop the system. So just a little idea, the models weren't too fond of this system a couple days ago. Now they're catching on to this one a little more, keeping it a moderate strength tropical storm, as you could see, just off the Louisiana coast for this model in particular. This is only one model, but it was I put this up here so that you guys could see that the models have been, they weren't too keen on developing this, but now they definitely are. So we're going to take a look at the wind shear map out ahead of the system. This is where the tropical depression currently resides. Green is good for development, yellow is iffy, and red means a no-go for most development. So you could see currently the tropical depression 13 is in a little pocket of favorable wind shear. I expect that to move along with the storm as it moves to the northwest, and that's when we're really going to see some more favorable development. Once this favorable area for development, once this storm slows down a little bit, especially right around here, right across the eastern Yucatan Peninsula is where we could expect to see a little bit more development. Some wind shear issues with a trough that's dropping down, but that's expected to move out, and we'll get some more favorable conditions for at least some strengthening once this does reach into the Gulf of Mexico. And that's why I'm saying you guys, we're really going to have to watch this one, because you never like to see any tropical cyclone in the Gulf of Mexico come the middle of August or late August. So that's going to bring me right into the next storm, the one that's creating a lot of buzz on Twitter and social media. Tropical Depression 14, currently dealing with some wind shear to its north, shearing the system out a little bit. We'll see that on the satellite in just a moment. But this storm is also expected to move to the northwest. Missing the Lesser Antilles, supposed to miss the Lesser Antilles, but getting into an environment that's a little more favorable. Not as much wind shear out here close to the Lesser Antilles, whereas right now it's dealing with 20 to 30 knots of wind shear moving to the northeast. So that's the rundown on the wind shear for that storm, and it's a perfect transition right into the forecast for this storm. Expected to become a tropical storm sometime tomorrow as that wind shear lessens, moving to the northwest. Also expected to move north of the Lesser Antilles, Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic. I think they're going to be mostly in the clear. If there are any impacts, it should be minimal at most. But regardless, definitely something to keep an eye on as they're in the cone. The real interesting prospect is once this gets into the Bahamas, what exactly will happen? Some of the models kill it out a little bit because of outflow from the tropical depression that's over here. There gets some outflow and it stabilizes the atmosphere a little too much for strengthening. However, the National Hurricane Center believes that this is going to strengthen into a hurricane before making a strike somewhere on South Florida. But obviously there's a cone for a reason, a cone of uncertainty for a reason. Everywhere on eastern Florida really has to be alert. And Florida as a whole, the whole peninsula, has to be on alert as of right now. But some of the models also really like to strengthen this in the Bahamas. Some of them are a little off of it, but this is still... We have to understand this is still 4 to 5 days away before any potential impact. So there's still going to be some questions on the intensity of the system. But without further ado, let's get into the satellite presentation. You could see these clouds moving to the northeast as the center of the system rotates, and that's evidence of that wind shear that's currently occurring as these clouds are racing off to the northeast. So this storm's getting sheared out a little bit. But still presenting a pretty good look. If it could survive the shear tonight, today into tomorrow, there'll definitely be a better chance of developing tomorrow into tomorrow night. So not incredibly impressive, but you could see there definitely is some low-level spin going on, as evidenced by these outflow clouds spinning around. Low-level center looks somewhere in here. But it's kind of hard to tell without an eye for a storm or a recon plane to show us exactly what's going on. Now, taking a look at the latest 18Z tropical guidance, the dynamical models, bumped a little bit further north from the last run, keeping it really far north of Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic before most of these models strike somewhere on South Florida. The intensity, like I said, is up in the air, but this is a track you really, really do not want to see at this point in the season. Now, I will say these models sometimes have a tendency to bunch up a little bit, and they don't really give a full idea of the extent of possibilities. But regardless, they're showing you a pretty good idea, pretty much agreeing with the National Hurricane Center cone that the storm is going to be somewhere within this region. Definitely a prospect for further strengthening if it stays north of the Dominican Republic and Cuba. If it does start to sag to the south, that's when you could get some land interaction. It might be a little more difficult to strengthen. But if these dynamical models are correct, and this is going right into the heart of the Bahamas, this water is very, very warm. There's not going to be a whole lot of wind shear. The rapid intensification model that we have is currently giving this a 58% chance to rapidly intensify. So that is definitely very concerning. If you live in South Florida, you have to be watching this. You know I'll be here with a bunch of the latest updates, especially on my Twitter and my Facebook. But let's get into some of the intensity guidance. This is the 18Z intensity guidance for those dynamical models. Now, it did back off a little bit. The last model runs had a bunch getting into Category 3 and Category 4, but we've certainly backed off a little bit from that scenario. But still, regardless, all of these, every single one of these models getting this storm to tropical storm strength, and we still have a lot of models getting this to Category 1, Category 2. Even the National Hurricane Center is believing that this is going to get to hurricane strength. So definitely something that we are going to want to watch. Hopefully this video wasn't too long. Hopefully I didn't bore you guys too much going into technical analysis. If you guys would like to see a little bit more technical analysis, I could do that. But I really don't want to bore you guys. So that's all I have for today. Make sure to go follow my Facebook, my Twitter at Mike B. Weather. Make sure to like and subscribe as I put a lot of effort into these videos. It takes a while to plan them. You guys have an awesome day. If you are on the Gulf Coast, please be sure to have a plan. Stay safe. You guys have a good one. I'll be back soon with some more content.